Hello and welcome to this baseball special edition of Sports Zone. This is going to be one independent segment that we're going to talk only baseball, playoffs in full swing. We're at the championship series, and because we want to be the most accurate as we possibly can, we're going to try to do this independently so we can get it out quicker and be as accurate as possible. So I'm Dan. I've got Nate here with me. As I said, the championship series are both in full swing. 2 games done in each series. The ALCS will start there. The Cleveland Indians, Believeland, has yet to lose in the playoffs. They're now 5-0 in this playoffs. They have a 2-0 lead on Toronto. That series goes back to Toronto for Game 3 tonight. So that pitching matchup, Trevor Bauer versus Marcus Stroman. Stroman was projected to be the ace of the Toronto staff at the beginning of the season, but had a very down year. Bauer kind of stepped in to fill roles from injuries on the Indian staff and did certainly a serviceable job. My fantasy team appreciated the wins that he got me, which I did not expect, but he stepped in and did nicely. And this Cleveland team, it looks like they have something a little special going here. Nate, so what are your thoughts first on just Game 3?
Well, Game 3 for the Indians matchup is how many runs is Toronto going to score? They're heading back to Toronto tonight. And it's going to be, I always thought the Toronto lineup was so good. They have so many bats in there with Tulowitzki, Ed Encarnacion, and Joey Bats. Conspiracy theories later. But also with Donaldson, you would think that this offense would have some success against this Indians rotation. Yet tonight, I don't know about the matchup. I mean, I believe that if tonight's going to be the night for the Toronto lineup to finally wake up, because it's Trevor Bauer tonight. He has a 4.37 ERA. He's 12-8, pretty serviceable record, but he has some control issues that he's been working on throughout his entire career, even when he was with Arizona. Now, with Trevor Bauer tonight, I want to see if he can get his curveball going and his fastball going, and if he can get both those going, get that really downward motion that he has so much success with, I really think the Indians have a chance tonight. Now, on the other hand, with Stroman, he was projected to be their 5-star prospect that he was supposed to be. And he's not been that this year. He has a similar ERA as Bauer, 4.37 instead of 2.7. He's a lower WHIP at 1.29, and he has better control. But his strikeout rate and his hard hit rate is significantly up from last year. And if Toronto has any chance, they need to get Stroman needs to be on top of his game.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about what these two pitchers need to do. That said, could this one be a slugfest? Could this be one of those 8-7, 7-6 kind of games?
I mean, these are the back-end rotation starters. Stroman's not supposed to be, of course, and Bauer is obviously a good pitcher, but these are two great hitting teams. You got Kipnis and Jans Gomes on the other side with the Indians. Terry Francona is managing his way to Cooperstown. He's doing the anti-Cleveland Browns right now, and really projecting it up. This could totally be a slugfest. I would like to see it after the pitching duels that we've seen in both the NLCS and the ALCS.
All right, so now we'll move forward a little bit. Game 4 will also be in Toronto. Aaron Sanchez should be going for Toronto with that one. He was a bit of a surprise as a starter this year. His first season as a starter performed very nicely for them. So do you see Toronto being able to take these 2 games at home, get themselves back into this series? Does Cleveland go back home up 3-1? Will they sweep? What are you looking at going forward?
Well, hot take right now, Nathan's projections. I project that the Toronto Blue Jays lose tonight, and Bauer pitches very well in the cold Toronto air, and then Aaron Sanchez, the rookie, will then step it up. In his first season as a starter, will then step it up and really hone in his skills. What determines a good pitcher from a great pitcher is how they perform in the postseason. Kershaw's got a lot of crap for that in the past, but I really think this is Aaron Sanchez's turn to step up. You saw Sonny Gray in the 2010 series against Detroit really step up against Verlander and making him one of those great pitchers. David Price could not be considered a great pitcher because of his lack of success in the postseason. So I really do believe that it's Aaron Sanchez's night on Thursday night to really take it home and make Toronto come back to Cleveland down 3-1.
Okay, so you'll have going back to Cleveland down 3-1. Is Cleveland taking it in 5?
I would believe Cleveland takes it in 5. Their rotation with Kluber, who's probably, in my opinion, my vote for the Cy Young this year for the AL, or Verlander, or any anyone else, but obviously Kluber is up there, and that rotation and bullpen is just so effective for the Indians, and they're hitting very much above average. I wouldn't say the same contention as Toronto's. They don't have the same slugfest power, but I definitely think that pitching wins championships, and I firmly believe that Cleveland will take this in 5.
Well, let's talk about that Cleveland bullpen just for a second. You mentioned it. How about Andrew Miller, a midseason acquisition from the Yankees? He has been locked down, especially this postseason. The first reliever, I think, in baseball history to have consecutive appearances with 5 or more strikeouts. And he did it in back-to-back days. I mean, this is a guy who clearly has no problem pitching more than 1 inning and just gives hitters fits. He's been lights out as really a setup guy for Cody Allen, who's the closer for Cleveland. So, talk about the kind of back end of that bullpen. How good have they been?
Well, Andrew Miller, when he was with the Yankees, had signed a 2-year, $9 million extension. Many people were like, what are you guys thinking? Andrew Miller hasn't had any success, but the Yankees had the foresight for once. Sorry, Yankees fans. But Andrew Miller, great left-hander, probably the best left-hander relievers in the game. He has one of the most nastiest, gut-wrenching, knee-buckling sliders you'll ever see. When people swing and miss, I feel a breeze all the way here in Washington, D.C. But also, when you have Andrew Miller, he can go 1 to 2 innings of just shut-down baseball where hitters are almost peeing their pants, wondering what they're going to see. You have Cody Allen in there going to throw some fire and strike him out. I mean, it's almost as if you have 2 Zach Brittons in there. Maybe not that caliber, but 2 solid potential closing candidates in there for the game. And I believe that Andrew Miller and Cody Allen together can really finish off this Blue Jays team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talked about Britton-type closers, kind of, and certainly Terry Francona not afraid to use them. As we said, we've seen Miller 6, 7, 8 outs at times this season, which is you don't see that from a reliever often these days. So we'll transition now from the AL. We picked Cleveland to move on. Actually, interesting note before we do move on, which I forgot to mention, Danny Salazar trying to come back from an injury, pitched a simulated game today up in Toronto with his team. They are saying there's a chance if Cleveland makes the World Series, they could have Salazar back for the Fall Classic. What kind of difference would that be?
Look out to anyone who's playing the Indians. It might be Cleveland's year. They already won the NBA championship. They may be winning the World Series too. I'd hold off your bets for the Cleveland Browns this year. Maybe next year. I think they're 0-5, 0-6 this year. But oh my gosh, if they get all-star Danny Salazar back, he brings another level of dimension. He's one of the most clutch people in the Indians bullpen. He brings a veteran presence. He will anchor that along with Kluber, and it will just be a nightmare for hitters. I'm very worried, and I'm glad I only play club baseball.
All right, so now we'll safely transition over to the National League side. This series is knotted up at 1 as a solid, very, very good performance from Clayton Kershaw last night. 7-inning shutout ball. Adrian Gonzalez provides the only run in a 1-0 Dodger win after the Cubs took Game 1 8-4 on the strength of Miguel Montero's pinch hit go-ahead grand slam. It's certainly been an entertaining series. They'll now shift to Los Angeles for Games 3 and 4. So with this one tied, what are you looking at going forward in these 2 games in Los Angeles?
I guess the question on my mind is the question on everyone's mind. Can LA win without Clayton Kershaw? We know they have some good back-end starters. Rich Hill, they acquired from Oakland for some Grant E. Holmes and 2 other pitching prospects. Rich Hill, one of the nastiest curveballs in the game. He only throws about 90 to 92, but that curveball really breaks in, and it really makes the hitters really guess and miss. Before Hill got injured, he had about a 2.25 ERA, and I believe against Arrieta, he can have some success. And especially, Arrieta is not the same Arrieta we saw last year. I remember in the month of September, he played that series against Pittsburgh, had that 0.69 ERA, as many strikeouts as I have likes on Facebook, which is more than, I think, 10. But but with that pitching matchup, I can totally see LA taking that out. Their hitting's coming alive a little bit. I mean, Adrian Gonzalez had a 467 average in that game, but the other bats in LA need to wake up. I mean, they have Chase Utley in the lineup right now, Corey Seager as well, and Rookie of the Year candidate. You need to have other bats wake up, but it's really difficult against this Chicago Cubs team when you have Arrieta, Lester, Hendricks, and of course the fire-throwing Cuban missile Aroldis Chapman in the back end. and along with Hector Rondon. I mean, you need to have your bats, and you can't just rely on all the pitching.
Well, Corey Seager had a really good division series, both games 1 and game 2 getting things off to a bang. But he said the Dodgers have been a bit quieter, the championship series. He said just the 1-0 in that game. Potentially an up for the Dodgers, though. They beat Kyle Hendricks, who, of starters who pitched the entire season, led the National League in ERA. So to beat him, even if it was 1-0, probably gives them an up. Probably makes them feel good, a bit of confidence heading back home. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. You know, guys like Justin Turner, who's had a great year. Those are the guys who need to produce for LA. Is there enough talent on this Dodgers team to keep up with the Cubs? We know how good the Cubs are from really 1 to 8 in their lineup. Is there enough talent on the Dodgers?
I mean, with the Dodgers, it all comes down to the clutch. The Cubs are a vastly superior, talented team when it comes to the Dodgers. The Cubs are the best team in baseball. If you look at their sheer talent-wise, both Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant themselves are franchise players. Oh, and you also have Ben Zobrist, Addison Russell, Jason Hayward, who's having a terrible year. You also have their entire rotation and bullpen, which could both be argued as the best in the business. Sorry, Mets fans. But with the Dodgers on the other side, they have the best pitcher in the game with Clayton Kershaw, and there's no doubt in that. 6 strikeouts, 2 hits over 6 or 7 innings. But the thing with the Dodgers is they have the hitting talent. What really concerns me is the bullpen. Blanton giving up a grand slam to Miguel Montero is just, you can't do that. This is the playoffs. The definition of clutch is being able to survive under pressure. And I'm sorry, but Joe Blanton, a former of my hometown, the Oakland Athletics, you did not come through. And that's literally what the Dodgers need to do. Everyone needs to get hot right now. All the bats need to get hot. The entire outfield needs to get hot. The entire infield needs to get hot. And they need to start hitting now because it can't just be the pitching rotation. The Cubs are too good in that regard. But they're hitting. The hitting is what the Dodgers can control. And there's more opportunities and more players. And I believe that the Dodgers can contend with some of the Cubs' hitting talent.
Yeah, I mean, you make an interesting one about Joe Blanton. I 100% agree. The Dodger bullpen is the question. You got Kenley Jansen, who's probably one of the best closers in the game. He was up to 47 saves in the regular season. But the bridge is the problem, and he pitched 2 innings in game 2, so you didn't have that issue. You went Kershaw straight to Jansen. But it's when you have Rich Hill, who can go 5 1/3. How do you get it to Jansen from there? And you said Blanton's not really the issue, the answer. They have Pedro Baez, who throws hard, but he's up and down. Especially in the playoffs, you don't know what you're going to get. Getting to Jansen has been the problem for the Dodgers. So I 100% agree. Just before we go, do you have a prediction for this series? Who's going to win it? How many games?
I would say Cubs in 6.
Cubs in 6.
Cubs in 6. 100%. I think that the Dodgers will somehow find a way to win. I mean, Kershaw is always going to be a lockdown. If they get back to him, I predict a win tonight for Rich Hill. I think that he's going to outpitch Jake Arrieta. He's going to have 7 or 8 strikeouts, and the Dodgers are. I'm predicting the final score of this game to be a 3-1 Dodgers win. But in the end, they just don't have enough pitching talent. Urias isn't their guy right now. He was the number 1 prospect, the number 1 pitching prospect behind Lucas Giolito for the Nationals, but Urias just isn't there yet, and he cannot compare with Lackey or any of the Cubs' quote back-end starters.
I don't disagree. I think Urias, he's shown flashes and that he's going to get there. But he's 19 in the playoffs on a big stage, and I just he's got the stuff, but the problem is the pitch count gets up there very quickly. So he could end up being Steven Matz, what Steven Matz was for the Mets last year. Well, he'll give you like 4 solid, but then you got to figure out how to get from 4 to 9 with a lead, right? So I'm with you. I think the Cubs as well. We're predicting a Cubs-Indians World Series. That's going to be a fun one. 2 very long World Series droughts could be coming to. One of them will come to an end this year. But that is all the time we have for this Sports Zone Baseball special. Come back and check out the full episode when it's posted later on this week.